Good Friday afternoon, everybody. Victor will be here momentarily. I am Darren, and once Victor shows up, I'll pop him in here. Uh, I'll go ahead and start the intro right now. In fact, my name is Darren Pope. I'm one of the co-hosts for the DevOps Paradox podcast, and along with me here momentarily is Victor.
Hey,
Okay, yeah. In fact, let me get rid of this in the background too. I forgot to reset this up. Okay, there's that, and then we can do that, and then, hey, there we go. All right, so if you've been around with us, so I'm one of the co-hosts. This is Victor over here, and got that in bright in my brain today. We're the co-host of, boy, can we just restart again? Let's play the 10-minute intro again. No, we won't do that. But anyway, so we co-host a podcast called DevOps Paradox, and on Fridays we do a live show. Recently, it's been basically noon to 1 Eastern time, and talking about just stuff in general that we've seen over the past week. And what we've seen in the past week is very interesting. Oh, I forgot to tell you one thing. I'll have to tell you later. I can't tell you now. That would be.
okay.
But anyway, let me get the screens all ready to go here, and then we'll be able to do the sharing. What are you breaking open there? By the way,
Bottle of wine.
bottle of wine. I have my
It's
vintage.
almost weekend.
Yes, I have my vintage Coke Zero right now. So again, Coca-Cola, if you're watching, we'll take sponsorships. Even where Victor is, right? Well, you prefer Pepsi.
No,
That's okay.
I don't know. I prefer
take
sugar,
both.
caffeine, and alcohol in any combination.
But anyway, a little discombobulated today. One thing that I saw that came through this week was Chaos Mesh, registered trademark, joined CNCF as a Sandbox project. Now, if you followed us for any time at all, you know that we are all about chaos. Just like that. And so you couldn't have timed that one any better. So I haven't dug into this much. Have you looked at Chaos Mesh much?
Not enough to kind of judge it, really. It looks very interesting, but haven't had enough time to dig deep, really.
Yeah. Again, I think and of course we've had, in fact, coming up this week on the podcast that comes out on Wednesday, we talk with Uma from Litmus Chaos, which they were just recently also, well, not recently, they have been also accepted as Sandbox. I think what this tells us, though, is that Chaos is becoming a first-class citizen for anything for Kubernetes. Right?
Yes.
I think that's the big underlier here. Not that we don't inject normal chaos into our lives, but now we're trying to inject it on purpose.
So, but that's kind of my doubt. I'm never sure. When you get interested in something and when you're following something, and then you find that something is increasing in popularity or abundance.
Yeah.
But I'm never sure whether that's because I'm looking for it, and that's why it seems
there.
like
Yeah.
it's there, or because it's really increasing in popularity. I would like to think that it's really increasing in popularity. And there is a good reason for it, I think. And it's similar like why microservices increased in popularity only a couple of years ago instead of like 20, right? We have the tooling needed to enable relatively easy usage of chaos, right?
Yeah.
And that's Kubernetes because it's very easy to control it. Everything is API controlled, right?
Yeah.
And the missing ingredient until recently, relatively recently, like 2 years, is network mesh or service meshes.
Right.
Because it's not enough just to destroy applications or obstruct them, but being able to control network was the important piece that was missing.
Yeah. And again, sorry for people that if it looks like I'm looking off weird, right before we started today, we were going through our checks and I would clap my hands and he would hear the clap and about 2 seconds later, my hands would come together. So the delay, I still have my old camera set up, so I'm looking at a different camera right now. So it's strange to me. Things being API driven. Let's go way back in time. software for telephone switches was written in, do you know the language?
80s and
Yeah. What
70s,
language?
50s. Nobody knows.
It's Erlang, right? They
Yeah.
used Erlang for all of that. Erlang is hella fast, right? It's extremely fast. But did Erlang ever really take off in general usage? No, it didn't. Why? Because it's Erlang,
It's good enough.
right? But now that things are becoming easier, hello Node, hello JavaScript, then we can do other things. So, Chaos Mesh, congratulations on being accepted as Sandbox. I think it's important, even though we don't know anything about you. We'd like to know about you.
I mean, now important. I have certain reservations there. Let me be clear, because I think that CNCF is becoming a huge mesh of something.
Right.
I think that CNCF is becoming too big. So I mean, great for being accepted. So kudos to you, amazing, all that stuff, right? But see, I'm starting to dislike CNCF. It's becoming a place for everything and maybe nothing in particular. Because what is CNCF? Kind of what are the projects in CNCF? There's like 200 of them and 300 waiting to be accepted, right?
Right.
What I really liked about CNCF initially is that it was kind of guiding me in decisions. So these are the two options or three options that we think are really, really good for your monitoring needs, right?
Yeah.
And now we have 50.
Yeah. I'm trying to get to the projects. Oh, my mouse. Okay, so look. It's just
go to all of them. Go to all of them if you dare.
Oh wait, where's the all one? Can you just click on projects? Oh, you can. Okay.
You see?
No, that expands it. Graduated and incubating. Let's assume that's it. Okay. Holy cow. Social vomit.
Oh, but that's a subset. Now you're looking at the wrong one.
Am I? Okay, so where is it? Tell me.
I cannot find it now. I'm trying desperately. There is that kind of graph with all the logos. And
there it is.
Yeah. Camera. I mean, come on.
And I'm still scrolling. Here, let's see if I can get it on one screen here. So in order to get it on one screen, holy cow, 40%. Okay. We jest, but not really, because there's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, so as a placeholder for projects that are open source and want some kind of governing and all this, that's fine. That's great, right? It just that maybe it's time to kind of like the yesterday's talks about Apple, Google, Facebook, and others. Maybe it's time to split them, kind of like into 2 or 3,
or more. But anyway,
or more.
Okay. Next up today, one thing that I found that was interesting was an article that was published on AWS, and I'll pull it up here in a second, but using Kubecost. Now, you don't have to, I keep pressing the wrong buttons today. Using, this is always one thing that I run into anytime I talk to clients. I'll keep looking at the wrong lens. It's like, okay, well, how do I manage the cost? How do I do chargebacks? Yes, people still do chargebacks in 2020. To the teams of how much stuff they're using, especially in an ephemeral thing. It's like, okay, if I've got a client or if I've got one of my customers spinning up, 5 pods a month, no big deal. But I've got another one that's spinning up 20,000 pods a day. My 5 pod a month guy should not be paying the same price as my 20,000 a day, in theory. So Kubecost, I haven't tested this out yet, but it talks about multi-tenancy. And again, this is on the AWS site, so they're speaking specifically about EKS. But Kubecost, you just load it up, do some Prometheus stuff, and pretty much off you go.
Nice.
And in theory, I think, yeah, there is a dashboard. Of course, there's a dashboard. You can't be part of Kubernetes unless there's a dashboard.
There is Prometheus, and then there must be a dashboard, even
Yeah.
if none is provided specifically.
That's true. So this could be interesting, if for no other reason of, okay, when I have to, because it's usually when projects start out, I keep looking at the wrong lens again. When projects start out, usually there is a generalized budget. It's coming through shared services. We're just dumping money at shared services and they're taking care of it. But at some point, you're going to want your own. How much does it cost? How much is it really costing me to run in this? That's a good question to ask, even if you're not doing chargebacks.
I mean, I do think that something like this is needed in every mid to big size companies.
Yeah.
Simply because, if there is no kind of way to charge the teams for using something, then there is no incentive to be responsible.
Right.
When I say charge, I mean not necessarily from their paychecks, but
Yeah.
from the budget or whatever, just so that at least you have some idea how crazy you're going.
Yeah. It's like, do we get free Cokes this month? Do we get free chips this month or not? Right? Because
Exactly.
that budget could come from this. And this one screenshot looks pretty interesting, is abandoned workloads. This is where, we've talked about this before, this is where the actual cloud providers make their money. It's not how much you're actually doing, but how much you forget that you're actually running and you didn't shut down.
Exactly.
That's the breakage model. They want you to leave stuff running as much as possible. I try to be a good citizen within our company, and on Friday afternoons when I'm done, as long as I'm not planning on working the weekends, which I'm not sure if that's going to happen this weekend or not, on Friday afternoons before I'm wrapping up the day, I go through and destroy all the stuff that I might have been using throughout the week. At night, I try to scale down to 0 if I'm using Kubernetes. Or if I've got some just base VMs running, I stop them at night, because that's 8 hours that they're not being used. Now, if I forget one night, okay, life goes on, right? I'm not going to really worry about it. But if I had spun up a specialized instance, heck yes, I'm shutting that down as soon as I can, because that's big money sometimes.
But I think that we are also going towards, everything right now is pointing us going towards scaling to 0 of everything.
Yes.
I think that's so scaling horizontally, vertically, that's the old story.
Yeah.
But it's relatively new, at least the common usage, that we are scaling everything to 0 when not used. Now we're talking about serverless, we're talking about infrastructure, whatever. It can be managed, self-managed, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But scaling to 0, because ideally, the best thing would be that you don't do what you're doing. I mean, what you're doing is great, right? That's responsible. But it would be even better that you do not. Kind of simply, ideal to me is I finish working and I go out and have dinner.
Yep.
Not shut down anything. It just gets shut down.
Yeah. Now, I could schedule that. Actually, I probably should. That way I know to walk away from the desk at night. That would be like that's when the lights automatically turn off around the office. That's when you have to leave. Or the classic one, not so much the lights, it's when the air conditioning turns off. You know when it's time to leave. So I need that same type of deal of, okay, all my instances just shut down, time to leave. Or at least stop working on that and start working on something else. So Kubecost is pretty interesting.
I had connected IFTT, my Google Home with IFTTT, or I don't know how many T's there are. So when I say I'm finished working, it turns off the light, it does a bunch of stuff, and it was shutting down servers while back to the time when I was having them. So that's kind of cool. Google, I'm finished. Yeah. With you.
I'm glad I have earphones in, so my devices didn't automatically start doing things.
Shall we test it?
No.
Hey, Google.
And everybody that's watching this just sort of like, why did he do that? But that's okay. All right. Third piece of news that I thought was interesting. Using Gitleaks to detect bad things in your repositories. Now, if you haven't heard about Gitleaks, why am I having such a hard time today? It's because I forgot. So Gitleaks has been around for a while. But it gives you, it's a SAST for looking for things in your repositories. Now, I know I keep looking at the wrong lens. I need to cover this up. I know you haven't ever, Victor, you've never checked a password into a Git repository.
I
Never.
did.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Oh, I don't know. Actually, I had my Slack APIs committed to API keys committed to Git for the books.
Whoops.
At one moment, I had to change it to sed. Sed command. Here is the command, but replace it with. I think that I had to add signs everywhere so that Git doesn't know that it is a password.
So now, again, this is another thing I haven't tested yet, but I ran across it this week. It looks interesting. I mean, it's also available as a GitHub action. That could be useful. They also have GitLab and GitHub API support, so you can do full scans. So that means if you're Bitbucket, you can't do the whole thing. They're using Toml. All right. No YAML. So, and it's corporately sponsored by Gamma. So, and of course, they're probably there. This looks interesting because why would you want to have to manually go through and find embedded passwords in repositories that people did silly things and checked it in?
But here's a question that I'm asking because I don't know the answer. Yeah. Isn't GitHub already doing that? Is this kind of better than what GitHub is doing?
I don't think
because GitHub, the examples I told you, GitHub was sending me emails saying, "Man, we removed your API token without asking you anything."
Okay, so there probably are certain patterns that they're looking for, but I don't know if they're doing everything. So I don't know. It'd be interesting to see. Yeah, but that's only if you're using .com. I bet it's not happening if you're using GitHub Enterprise. It might be a feature that could be turned on.
Yeah. No, it's very, very. I need those things now that I'm officially product manager, and I need things that I can use to blame others for doing nasty stuff. That's important part of the job, right?
It's always important, yes.
If I don't punish anybody at least once a week, they're not going to respect me.
Hey, David. I'm not sure what you were telling us to stop about, but it could have been any number of things. Probably CNCF. That was probably the CNCF zoom out to 40% to see everything.
No, it's a typical danger of being a victim of your own success. CNCF is, by every single criteria, is a huge success. And now maybe it's a bit bigger success than it should be.
Is CNCF the next Amazon?
You've got a
you have a governing body, and nothing against CNCF, but you have a governing body over hundreds of projects, right? Probably hundreds. I haven't done the math.
But
here's Victor saying, I'm not going to say it. But that's we'll be polite. We've already done it once, so just don't weave it in everywhere else. But CNCF.
We should do like, hey G, subscribe to our podcast and see whether that works.
Which, by the way, you can actually listen to our podcast on voice devices. I don't remember what the G one is, but I know the A one. And the S one I can't remember. But anyway, we're talking CNCF for just a moment more.
Yeah, so just to finish on CNCF, I think it's becoming, or it is already in the same situation like Kubernetes. Mm-hmm. That it is great, it is amazing, but it became kind of a black hole in terms that is sucking everything in, and everybody needs to be inside it, right? Now, that means that basically if you're a software company that have a product, if you're not in CNCF, your chances of success are drastically smaller, right?
Why do you say that? I'm gonna counter you on that.
Because it grew to a certain size where you have to be there, right? Because what happens when you're looking for something? Oh, is it in CNCF? Yeah, I need monitoring. Is it in CNCF? I need logging. Is it in CNCF? Right? Kind of not being there. It's like I come from Serbia, right? Kind of, it's one of the few countries in European continent that is not in European Union. And then if you're not in, then you're basically out of whatever is happening. So everybody must be in CNCF. And that means that CNCF is not choosing anymore. It just
is. It's the next Walmart, right?
Yeah.
Or Tesco, right? You have to be in, if you want to be sold at volume, you've got to be in Walmart or Tesco. Or listed on Amazon. So, but anyway, now's probably a good time to talk about what do we want.
I'm surprised that you know what we're going to talk about. That's amazing.
It's amazing. It is.
Kudos
amazing.
to you. I have no idea.
Thank you. Let's talk about the survey, because I was thinking about saving that, but let's talk about the survey. So, if you haven't taken the survey yet, go take the survey at devopsparadox.com/survey. We did a batch of episodes. Was that yesterday morning? I think it was.
Yes.
We did a batch of episodes to sort of get us ready through August, because Victor is sort of going to be on holiday in most of August, so we're trying to get a little bit ahead. He's not really on holiday. He's never on holiday. I keep looking at the wrong lens. I need to stop saying that too. So we did a bunch of recordings yesterday, and we're getting more into containers as a service. We finished up with functions as a service. Containers as a service are almost effectively done.
Yes, wrap up is missing, and my favorite part, what do I really think about it, is about to be done today, tomorrow, and then we're done. And only one more serverless thing is missing, Knative.
Oh, Knative, that's correct. And the native Knative, let's say it that way. Right?
Self-managed.
The self-managed Knative.
Yeah. Yes.
So that means we've gone through functions as a service, we've gone through containers as a service, and we need to know what the next big thing is that you want to see and want us to figure out for you, so you don't have to do it.
As it stands now, it's security.
It is security. Okay. But
that's winning by 1 point.
So you could influence this. If you haven't gone to the survey yet, go take the survey. By the way, dirty little secret, we don't lock you out. You can take the survey again if you want. You can stuff the ballot box. So security is the plan for next. So with that, if you got some questions, go and drop them in the chat. Otherwise, we're going to start saying, hey, G, but we'll say the real word momentarily. I'm trying to remember what else we ran into this week that was interesting. We're still waiting on Copilot's fixes to come in. David, if you're watching, I still haven't opened up that ticket yet. I got to do that too. We're trying to figure out a big demo potentially to show you. And we talked about it on one of the podcasts. So it won't be ready probably before the beginning of September, because it's probably going to be me working on it, since Victor's going to be working on security. I'm all about containers as a service. Heck, I'm even okay with functions as a service for a lot of stuff.
Conceptually, it's the same thing.
It is.
The difference is the major difference
strategy, right? It's just the execution strategy.
I mean, two things. What is the input, right?
Yeah.
Do you prefer giving code or giving container image?
Yeah.
And I would say that the major difference, conceptually, not in implementation, because implementation is a bit messed up. Yeah. But conceptually, the difference is that it is not one instance, one replica per request model. I don't like that. I simply don't like that. That's a functions as a service, right?
Yeah.
I don't think it makes sense.
Yeah, there's parts that I still think are good and others that aren't so much. Now, on this week's episode that came out on this Wednesday, this was the episode where we compared Lambda and functions in functions. Do you want to wrap anything else up about that? Which of the big three won in your perspective?
Of functions?
Of functions.
None.
Yep.
They're all equally good or equally bad, depending on the point of view. No, I cannot find a substantial difference between Lambda and Google Cloud Functions and Azure Functions. It's the same thing. It's really the same thing. Language is supported. There are nitpicking here and there, but I really don't see a difference.
So if you want to test it out, go for it, right? That's the thing. That's the good thing about it, right? Is they're all, I'm going to step out on the ledge here and say they're functionally equivalent.
Yes, exactly. I mean, from user perspective. And that's a good thing, because what that shows is that it is mature, right? When different providers, different software companies can provide more or less the same result, that means that something is sufficiently mature, right? And if you look at containers as a service, actually, the story is it's a wild west. It ranges from amazing, this is best thing ever happened, to this is horrifyingly bad and really, really awful.
Yep.
And that means that we are still not there with containers as services as industry.
Right.
Now, I'm not saying that none of the providers are there. Some are. And I'm not going to mention who it is, because I might wake up your smart something. But you can see that we're not there as industry yet.
Yeah.
With containers as a service.
Yeah. So if you haven't listened to this week's episode, you can go out to devopsparadox.com/66 and listen to it there on the website or wherever you listen to find podcasts. You haven't subscribed to our podcast yet? Why not? It's really simple. All you have to do, you open up your mobile device, you open up your thing, whatever. There's the website, devopsparadox.com. Go do it. Go listen to and see if you agree with us. Hopefully you don't. I don't want you to agree with us all the time. That's too easy. We already agree with each other too much.
If you're looking for something you're not going to agree, then you definitely need to wait for a few days until I publish the summary of containers as a service, because I'm trashing everybody, almost everybody. Kind of like, I don't think that I'm known to trash stuff, but within the catalog sections, this is the first time that I'm really being mean, kind of like mean, with a reason, good reason. Eh?
You're being mean with love.
Or not love. There is no love. There is no love for no. There is absolutely no love for ECS, and there is no love for ACI. No love at all. No, later on I'm gonna be spanked for this from some of those might be our partners, but who knows?
Got a question from Neil. Recommendations for a keyboard and a mouse. Boy,
man,
this is religious war level type stuff. Because I will show you what I'm using at the moment. I have a Microsoft mouse circa 19 something. It's old. I have even better. I have a Best Buy keyboard, an Insignia keyboard. I'm the wrong person to ask about mice and keyboards. Now, I will finish with this. I do use a Microsoft Ergonomic 4000 that I've had for a very long time, since probably the mid-90s. Is that about right? When did I get it? 90? I might have gotten it in 2000. And I still use it. It's probably pushing 20 years old now. And I like the split keyboard. I'm not into the cherry keys or the other things. I don't need to sound like an old IBM PS2 keyboard. And what about you?
I had a couple of mechanical keyboards, and they're amazing. I feel so great.
Why do you say
and
that? Why? I mean,
because there is something I kind of, to begin with, I don't look at the keyboard while typing, right? How do you call that? Blind typing.
You
right?
touch type. Yeah, you touch type.
Touch type, right? So the kind of like being able to feel the keyboard, having
tactile response and
is really important. And I threw them all to trash. I realized that the most important thing, and here's the thing, the most important thing is that I have exactly the same keyboard on my desk as on my laptop. Because if you, how do you call that? How do you say type something? Blind type.
Touch type.
When you touch type. When you touch type, if it's even kind of like half a centimeter to the left or right, it messes you up completely. So since I sometimes work directly from laptop, sometimes I'm on a desk, I need desk keyboard, I need to use laptop keyboard, it needs to be exactly the same. So I must be stuck with kind of like I even threw the trash I had the big one with the separate
the numerical
keyboard.
Yeah.
Which is something I couldn't live without.
Yeah. So I still have mine here too. But
yeah.
Here's the reason why I don't use this one right now is because I prefer, especially in cases for streaming, I want everything hardwired. I've got no Bluetooth. Everything's wired right now. Even my headphones are wired.
That shows your age.
I'm not that much older than you.
Enough.
Now, all right. So that's keyboard.
Here's
right?
the thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
After getting used to this,
the trackpad,
mouse. I cannot use mouse. It's useless to me. Any mouse, doesn't matter what the mouse is.
Now on the mouse, here's the thing I'm running into is I've got one of the original Magic Mice with AA batteries in it. And I'm getting really fed up with that because I keep on losing my Bluetooth connection. So I'm looking at getting a gaming mouse. So I can program some macros for a lot of the things that I do.
What do you mean? You have Elgato Stream Deck.
Yeah, but I can't use that for clicking around on the screen. What? You want to see it?
Okay, maybe.
It's right here. It's right here. Well, actually it's right there. But that's my Stream Deck that I'm actually not using for this show. I use it for another show. But I got to come up with a better mouse because so I agree with you for like when the Magic Keyboard I just showed you is what goes with me on the road. So if I'm at a client, I've got a stand. Of course, I can't show that here, but I've got a stand that I set my laptop on. That way I'm not doing this all the time. So I can always look up and I've got the keyboard down and everybody talks about it. In fact, I'll pull it up here. I use a Roost stand. This goes beyond, sorry, Neil. This goes beyond your question, but once I share it here, you may understand why. So I have the original, I'm going to pull your comment down real quick. So I have the original version of this, which isn't as cool, but if you can find the old videos for it, they were stacking like 8 cinder blocks on it before it finally collapsed. It's all carbon fiber and other stuff, but I really, really love my stand. And it just helps being around. So this is actually the picture that I like the best. I don't like being this person sitting around. I like being this person. So I think it's about $100. And there's a person showing how to use it. Again, this is the newer one, so mine doesn't do this. Mine's a fixed height, but I love the Roost. So again, I'm still looking for a mouse too. If anybody's got any recommendations for a mouse, send them our way, please. In fact, now's a great time to talk about it. If you want to send us a notification, join the Slack channel. Join the Slack channel. Boy, I am not clicking the right things today. You can leave us a message over there. Ask us questions. If you've got any keyboard recommendations, Neil, I think Neil's in the Slack channel, right? I've seen him over there, I think.
Yeah.
So?
Anyways. Yeah, he's.
So.
Anyways.
Do what Neil did. Join the Slack channel. We talk about lots of weird things over there. Like things like Kubernetes. Oh boy.
It's getting boring.
It is getting boring. When you have software to tell you how much you're spending within your cluster, you know you've now reached when accounting shows up, you know you've reached the level of boredom. That could be tweetable right there, I think. Because when you're starting out, you don't care about accounting. You're just trying to get the work done. But when accounting shows up, it's like watching. If you ever go back and watch, which tour was it? It was one of Madonna's earlier tours. It wasn't the Like a Virgin tour. It was the one after that. Very last show of the tour. It's usually, this is a normal thing. You know, you bring, everybody comes out for a bow. All the crew, everybody comes out. You could tell when the tour accountants came out because there was one guy that was very rotund. He was wearing a tie, and it was just funny. But that comes from a world long, long ago. Any other questions? Neil, we sucked at answering that question. Sorry. I think Victor's...
You sucked. I didn't. It's very easy criteria. It should be the same. Unless you work always on the desk.
On a desktop, yeah.
It needs to be the same as what you're having on your laptop or as close to it as possible.
Okay, so let me counter that, because here's why I disagree with that.
Okay.
If you own, because of my role goes from two places. I'm either in my home office or I'm on site with a client.
Yes.
Right. So I have effectively two different offices.
Okay.
And what I do in those offices is different. When I'm in front of a client,
you type on a keyboard in both cases.
It is different, because when I'm at home, I'm doing more research. I'm doing more harder work. When I'm in front of a client, I'm not doing that kind of work, right? I'm not trying to figure out. I'm typing, but I'm not typing to the level that I am when I'm having to write code to figure something out. So, because if I'm in front of a client, I'm not typing 6 hours a day, typically. I'm demoing, I'm doing whiteboarding, I'm doing whatever it is. But if I'm at home, I'm typing a lot more. So, it's... I don't. I mean, I get it. I'm not pushing the point too hard, but it's not that big of a deal. But it gives it's two different sides of my brain.
Fair enough.
I'll look again. It's like it's not worth fighting over. I like the keyboard too. So how do you keep track of which Kubernetes cluster you're interacting with using kubectl without running git context all the time? I have an answer for that.
I have a.
You go ahead and get your answer first.
I have a very silly answer that is probably not working only for me and nobody else. I keep kube context in different files. So I'm doing export kubeconfig equals this or that. Mostly because that prevents me from messing up things. I messed up so many times doing stuff in a wrong cluster. I cannot even describe how often I did that. So it's not easy. Kind of, I cannot switch context easily from one to another. I need to figure out the path. But to me, it's more simplicity of use is less important than preventing me from doing damage. So every cluster, different file.
So now, Neil, you said specifically using kubectl. I'm going to break that rule for a second and give you a different tool to use. If I can punch the right button.
kubectx?
kubectx and kubeNS.
Yes.
These are
awesome.
The latest versions of these are Go based, so you don't have to deal with all the older version. So it's just a single binary. This is I think the best way to do it. Outside of kubectl. I mean, if you're allowed to use a tool like this, I would prefer you do this. Or if you're using something like Lens, right? Or what was I still need to look that one up.
Which one?
The one that the team that created the Docker UI, the standalone app. I don't remember the name of it.
UI app or CLI app?
UI app. Again, we're talking. I'm going beyond what Neil's asked. So Neil asked for forgiveness, but I can't remember what the name of that one that team did. I mean, that's
my mind stopped as well.
Those are, I think, using those tools are important Maybe you don't live in them, but at least they give you visibility. It depends on what you're trying to do, I guess.
Octant.
Octant, that's it. Did they ever come out with their...
Octant, we see.
Oh, no, that's not the one I'm talking about, but this is this is a different one. I can't remember, but Octant was good. Of course, you get into K9s, you get into all the different other versions that are available. No, it wasn't Octant. I can't remember who it was. So I think, so going back to if you're restricted to using kubectl, then separate files work, right?
Yes, or if you want to prevent accidental damage, then that's the only option I know of.
Yep.
And kubectx will not prevent you
From hurting yourself. Yeah.
thinking that your production is a demo cluster that you used last night.
Yeah. That sounds eerily like you visited and had that problem.
Oh yeah.
So, okay. So this brings up an interesting question. How should you do it? Should you have some sort of MFA around... I'm making stuff up right now. Should you have some sort of MFA around switching contexts for contexts that are important? Or
So in my case, the reason why exporting kubeconfig works in my case is that I always, independently of this problem, I always exit terminal session when I'm finished working on something, right?
Yeah.
So I don't have kubeconfig. I do have the default one that points to absolutely nothing. Right. So when I start working, I have to do that extra step, the annoying step to figure out, where do I want to work today? Here.
Yeah. Well, you could have an init script when the shell starts that loads up a specific one, right?
Yeah, but I never know which one I'm going to use today. Oh. That's the problem.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying, though, is you'd have to spin up a specific shell.
Oh, yeah, it could
be a shortcut
shell. Yes.
That is just for this, interacting with this cluster.
I mean, now to be more precise, what I do have is that I have a source file that exports more than kubeconfig and kind of, I'm working here. And then I have a bunch of environment variables. I love environment variables. Right. That's kind of my thing. So I do source. I go to the repo that I work with, and then I source the file, which is always in git ignore, and sets up everything, including kubeconfig.
Hopefully that helped, Neil. Hopefully we didn't confuse you more. If you don't have kubectx and kubeNS, you should do that. In fact, I've got a tooling image that I have that has EKSCtl and Helm and a bunch of other tools in it. And I ran into the problem of, crap, how do I change context? Because I can never remember the long line to switch context. And I was like, okay, next bake, kubectx and kubeNS are going in.
Yeah,
just because
nobody can switch context without something like that. I mean, kubectl does not have any decent way to switch context outside of editing the file.
Okay, that was a good question. I don't know which one I like better, the keyboard and mouse or that one. Probably keyboard and mouse.
The funny thing about keyboard and mouse is that I know personally one person, whom I'm not going to name, and I've seen it at least 2 occasions that people take out their laptop and then they put this on top of the existing keyboard. Simply because Mac keyboards for years do not work.
Oh, because of the butterfly thing.
That whole butterfly nonsense. Yeah. So kind of the solution to butterfly is to put additional keyboard on top of your keyboard.
I have a 2011 MacBook Air. I don't have that problem. So
yeah. And now you shouldn't be buying new Macs for a year now. Anyways.
Apple Silicon. Yeah, that could be how is that going to change life? No Intel.
I mean, so heating is a big difference.
Well, yeah.
No need to cool your laptop, and that means that so the one of the big problems with Macs is that you get powerful CPU that is not cooled properly because it's too thin. So basically, you're wasting money on CPU for absolutely no good reason. If it doesn't need to be cooled, that's a winner.
Yeah. If you've never taken apart a Mac laptop, you should do it once. You will be surprised what the motherboard looks like.
But that kind of, if you look at the announcements that Apple is moving to ARM, and we know that, and Microsoft Surface, even though they failed big time for a couple of times, is also moving to ARM as well, unsuccessfully, but give them time.
So remember, Apple isn't moving to ARM; they're moving to Apple Silicon. It's ARM.
Yeah, but it is ARM architecture.
It's ARM architecture, correct?
Yeah. So it's this ARM, right? ARM is kind of, if I understood, I'm not really into hardware that much, but I understood it's equivalent of open source, something basically, as long as you fulfill the specification, you are ARM, right? Something like that. Anyways, Apple, Microsoft Surface also moved to that. So are we going to talk a couple of years from now as kind of, where is Intel? Where are they? What's going on there? Is this the beginning of the end of Intel?
Did they miss the boat? Because Qualcomm owns a huge amount of mobile.
Yeah.
If Apple's going to start producing their own... Now, the Apple market... Here's the thing. Until PC manufacturers like Dell and whoever the other PC manufacturers are, I don't even know anymore. Until they start moving towards ARM-based, I think Intel still got it, because for corporate desktops, you're still Windows, which means a PC, which means Dell, whatever the other ones are.
But Windows is moving towards ARM support.
Yeah, they are.
Slowly. They're not there.
And then once they're able to do it, off you go. I don't know. It's going to be an interesting next 5 years, I think. 2025. Of course, we're headed towards the epoch in 2037, so all systems will cease to exist at that point. Maybe not.
I will be retired by that time.
Dude, that's only 17 years.
Is it too much? Should I retire earlier?
I'll still be working. I'll be much more gray than I am today, but I'll still be working. Okay. That's getting sad.
That means that you're not going to see IPO of whichever company you're working in 17 years. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, what's interesting is, will we need devices like this? Do we need devices like that in 17 years? Is it just eye tracking?
The second one you showed, nobody needs that.
Nobody needs this.
No, look at it.
I mean, it even has a little red light on it. You know,
it's the same age as my daughter, probably, or older.
It's probably the age of my daughter. She's 27. Exactly. No, it's probably not as old as her, but close.
Okay, this is the best argument you can have for asking for a raise. I cannot afford a mouse.
Hey, it works. Hey, if it continues working, this silly, I can't get the tracking right. This silly little mouse is working a lot better than my Apple Magic Mouse right now.
Because Magic Mouse is trash. That's not a fair comparison.
Oh well. Why don't we go and start wrapping it up, since everybody seems to be a little bit quiet today and we are quickly running out. So, quick recap: Chaos Mesh. Welcome to the Sandbox. Sort of like let's a takeoff on who did that? Axl Rose. He was the front man for album was Appetite of Destruction. What is the band name? Come on, help me. Welcome to the Jungle.
Guns N' Roses.
Guns N' Roses. Thank you. Okay, rewind. Chaos.
And then
Mesh.
you say you're not told.
What were we talking about?
Exactly.
What were we talking about, Sonny? I don't remember what we were talking about. Chaos Mesh, welcome to the Sandbox. I need to do a parody for that. Kubecost, that looks really interesting. Knowing how much you're really spending, and then of course, the last one was Gitleaks. All the links for all of these things, along with the other things we talked about, the Roost, the CNCF down to 40% sizing so we can actually see it on one screen. We'll make sure all those things are in the show notes as well for today down in the description below. If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel and you're watching on replay right now, again, why haven't you subscribed yet? Go right over there, right underneath Victor. And there's a subscribe button. Click on the subscribe button. Click on that bell. That way you'll get notified when we schedule. Right now we're doing live streams pretty much every Friday. Usually around this time, things can change based on our schedules. Join us. Hang out. Ask questions. If you haven't joined us up yet for in the Slack group, you can do that. DevOpsParadox.com/Slack. And got one more comment in here. Oh, wait. Here we go. Ooh. I'm going down here for a minute. I'll be right back.
I don't know. I have no idea. I don't want to know. I thought that Kubernetes now supports Windows, right? That should be working fine in major providers.
Yeah.
Yeah. So run your applications still in Kubernetes, just on Windows servers. I have no idea whether that works well or that sucks. I have no bloody idea. But it's supposed to work. I don't know.
I mean, I'm assuming the question is this a .NET application that runs inside of IIS, right? And that's the bigger question.
Yeah, ship IIS as a container. Right?
Yeah, that's or you've written a .NET Core based app.
But it's one of those things. I mean, I'm going to be a bit now offensive, but it's in the same level now. If you're talking production, so we're not talking about Windows laptop on Windows on laptop, right? We're talking production.
Yes.
It's in the becoming same level as mainframe. Just don't touch it. Just let it be there.
Let it rot on your hardware. Now,
work around it. Work around it. That's important.
Well, okay. Let's say we can do that. That would be the preferred method of dealing with it today. But what happens when you've let it go for so long that now it's sort of like COBOL level and you don't have anybody to maintain it and it breaks?
Yeah, but but it's still, I understand. You need to maintain, you need to continue developing whatever you're developing on top of that application. And I understand that it cannot be abandoned.
Yeah.
But if you cannot move it to something better, closer to 2020, then why bother investing in it? Kind of just let it keep rolling with it. Kind of wherever it's running, do whatever needs to be done. But why invest in modernizing it if you know that it's kind of? I mean, Microsoft itself. I mean, Azure is mostly Linux now, right? Kind of like even Azure, the last bastion of Windows in production, is not mostly Windows. There is Windows there, but it's not the most commonly used operating system in Azure. So if Microsoft gave up, it's not forcing it anymore. So it's mainframe.
Speaking of Azure, that's where I've been working most of the week, or the last half of this week. My head hurts. Actually, my hair hurts.
I think that if you ignore now, if you compare it to the same level of knowledge, kind of complete newbie or experienced, I think it's from user perspective, it's easier and more than AWS. Yes, I really think so.
That's probably where I'm at because I've been working with AWS since 2008. So
that's a different thing. When you're trying to put, kind of in the same box, then it's hard.
It's not.
But
networking
you can do
is very different.
Yeah, but you can do almost everything with a single command. So in AWS, normally you need kind of 17 different commands or 17 different Terraform resources to do stuff, right?
Right.
But if you want AKS cluster in Azure, it's AKS cluster. There is kind of like
one.
That's the only thing you need to define, right? You might want to define networking separately, but that's it, right? If you want to run container registry, again, it's a single resource. It's not a puzzle like puzzle is in too many pieces like AWS. I think it's easier. I think it's more user-friendly. I'm not fond of Microsoft, but credit where credit is due. And it's kind of normal also. If you come after something, you're going to do it better.
Yeah. You would hope so, at least.
Yeah. So I must admit that from sysadmin perspective, and it's important which perspective you have, AWS gives you more knobs to turn. Yeah. You can fine-tune it infinitely better than anything else. But if you're not into fine-tuning all the details and stuff like that, Google kills everybody, and then Azure is just around the corner.
Yeah. And that's probably...
I know we don't agree on that one, but it's okay.
That's fine. It doesn't matter. Hey, get into the cloud, pick one of the providers. Heck, even pick one of the minor providers. Just get out of your data center if you can. Please?
Oh, yeah. Please. I'm really happy. I'm happy that nobody mentions anymore OpenStack. So kind of like the attempt to make cloud on-prem is kind of effectively dead, right?
You're not talking to the people I talk to. I still see it more than I wish I did.
Maybe more, but it's not kind of. It's not excitement anymore.
It's not eating the world anymore. No.
Yeah, exactly. You're not hearing, at least. So those who want to transition to something better, they're not considering it anymore, right? So some are stuck with it. That's normal. That's okay.
Yeah. And that's okay. It goes back to the mainframe. We've got it. Keep it. If it's working, great. Don't worry about it.
Hey, it's better to be. I mean, if you're stuck with on-prem with OpenStack, that's still much better than.
Great. Yeah.
That's still much better than those who actually did not reach that point yet.
Yep.
Kind of like.
Yeah. I mean, I think we agree. We're not bashing OpenStack for choosing OpenStack, because if that's what you got, that's a heck of a lot better than just having raw ESX clusters laying around.
Yeah.
Because OpenStack, I can do a lot with OpenStack that I can't do as easily with ESX. I can do it, but it's a lot harder to do.
Hey, it's been less than a year since the last time I received the question of whether to use Vagrant in production or on-prem. That's where we close the session.
That's it. Hey, we need to get a thumbnail. What do we want to do for the thumbnail today? What's the picture?
Thumbnail?
Thumbnail, because we'll put it up on. That'll be the thumbnail that shows up on YouTube.
Can I show me a butt?
No? There you go. All right.
How do you do that?
I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing here. Okay.
There you go. Bye. Something. I don't know.
Okay. Something in there. A frame somewhere in there probably worked. Okay. Thanks for everybody for hanging out with us live today. If you're catching this on the replay and you made it all the way to here, I'm so sorry, but thank you for hanging out.
Apologies for suffering.
Oh, well. So that's it. We should be back next week, and we'll talk to you then. See you. Bye.